seen Russia marking Victory Day with this big parade. Within Russia's parade, there were significant military figures. There were also the drones that are used here and tanks. How do you feel about that Victory Day parade, given what the situation is here between Russia and Ukraine?
It's a mixed feeling, you know. I could say is this, it's like a staged show. There is nothing special to that. I can be subjective from the point of view of being Ukrainian, but anyway, it doesn't look great. It's not strength, what I can say. This is like something that Russia feels resentment, and they want to engage in this revanchism, and they don't know how to how to pervert things and to show it to the wide public, including the international community. They want to show they are great, but conversely, in my opinion, and as it seems on the TV screen, this is not the case. Today's world sees the things.
Do you think that President Putin is using this ceremony and this moment in history to use the past to legitimize the present?
Absolutely. I think that they are living in the past, and the past is coming on them all the time, and they're trying to run away, but to no avail. So it's not possible for them. The past is dragging them back, and there is no force that could break this bonds from the past to the present and to the future. I'm not saying even anything about the future. Seems to me they are absolutely stuck in the past, and they keep their people stuck in the past. It's like a territory populated by the people that live with their ideology that has no perspective for the development.
President Putin spoke at the parade about defeating Nazism back during World War II, but also the responsibility to defeat it now, and clearly was referring to Ukraine. What's your feeling about that?
So again, a mixed and strange feeling, absolutely inconceivable to look at that and to listen to that, because Ukraine was deep in the war, and this is not only the victory of Russia. This is the victory of all countries who participated in that, including the United States, including Canada, including Australia and New Zealand. So all countries who contributed to victory over the Nazism have their fair share in that. And it's not only they want to monopolize this right to this victory, it's the responsibility of each and every nation that defeated this evil.
The position that the West is trying to push Russia into in terms of isolation. What we saw today at the parade was Russia in the presence of a great many other world leaders. We saw particularly President Xi, but also those from the global south and at least one leader of an EU nation. Do you think the West's policy of isolation on Russia is failing? And if so, what does that mean for the war going forward?
I think that Russia is exerting great efforts to show that they are not isolated. But if we look at the meaning of this day, this is the victory over the Nazism, and all those who we see on the Red Square, do you think they had any role in defeating Nazism? Seems to me this is a complete collision and misconception of the idea of this day. So this is an attempt to show that they are not isolated, when probably this is not the case.
Do you think that the United States has lost interest in the peace plan here? When we last spoke, there had just been the incident at the White House. Things, you say, are better now than they were then. But do you think that there is still a commitment on the part of the United States to bring peace here? And do you think that the United States is going to actually start to acknowledge Russia's hold on, say, places like Crimea?
Well, I believe that the commitment is still there. The United States want, and President Trump want to see this war end. They don't want to see many people die every day, as President Trump underscores in his daily tweets. And this is his aim, I believe so. And I say it considering his conversation with President Zelensky, and including yesterday's phone talk that went very well. And they discussed how to bring this war to the end. So everyone understands that peace must come back, that war does not benefit anyone. So I would say that for now, the commitment has renewed from the United States to be on board, to facilitate the end to the hostilities, to bring the ceasefire at least in the initial stage, and then to start the real peace talks once the real, reliable, full and unconditional ceasefire is established. It depends again whether the Russian Federation wants this war over.
You say there about the conversation between President Trump and President Zelensky and the wish to bring this war to an end. How do you see the American view of being able to achieve that?
I believe that they are trying to do it through the diplomatic means, by diplomacy, and trying to get the position of every side to this war. They come to understand better and more about the nature of this war and what's role of Ukraine in this war, that Ukraine is a victim, it's not an aggressor, Russia is an aggressor. And considering all these facts, I believe that they formulate the policy how to behave in this situation, so that there should be a clear differentiation between who is who in this war. So, and their policy aligns with their principles, it seems to me, being the case now.
So you think that America now sees Ukraine as the victim of this war and Russia as the aggressor in a way that it perhaps didn't just a few weeks ago?
Yes, it seems to be the case, yes.
And in terms of that ceasefire, obviously Russia offered this 3-day truce ahead of the run-up to the parade. Ukraine offered 30 days. Do you see any possibility of this 3-day truce being extended? And if not, what do you think the consequences are at the end of it?
We are ready to start it immediately from yesterday, even from the moment when President Zelensky and President Trump talked on the phone, and actually they expressed this readiness. We expressed it on our side, President Zelensky said about that. And after that, President Trump came up with a tweet in which he called on the parties to establish the 30-day ceasefire. Again, we are open, we are ready for that, to do that. And in case Russia does not accept, I believe that only international pressure can be the case, including sanctions, like on banking sector, like on economy, like cap on oil prices. So the leaders of the world cannot feed the Russian economy with this money that they use then to wage the war after that. And security guarantees for Ukraine. So to ramp up our air defense, to strengthen, to embolden our armed forces, and to give strong security guarantees, including probably the extensions of the Article 5. At least it should equalize the provisions of the Article 5 of the North Atlantic Treaty Organization Agreement.
In what way? How do you see that realistically working in terms of Article 5?
This is the readiness of the countries to be deployed in Ukraine, just to be like a buffer against the aggression, the control over the sky space in Ukraine, also being able to strike down those rockets, missiles coming on us every day now. And, to say that if the aggression happens, other countries will be ready to deploy their troops and to help Ukraine to withstand.
Do you think that's something that the US would countenance and support?
I hope that they will be able to provide a backstop. We are in a format, we are working now in a format of the coalition of the willing. You know about that, about the initiative of the Prime Minister of Great Britain and President of France. It's not finalized yet, but still it's on the table. This proposal is on the table. And in the nearest days, again, the leaders will gather to discuss how best they can make this variant work. So there should be a restraint, there should be, this possibility to keep Russia in check and at a distance.
And you are more confident now that America will go along with that in a way that perhaps was less sure a little while ago?
I would not exclude that. Why? Because the mineral deal was ratified by the parliament, was signed and was ratified by the parliament, and this is a kind of a safety guarantee, security guarantee when they start, if they start their works here on the ground. This should be a sort of safeguards for Ukraine.
I'm guessing perhaps not as strong as you might have hoped in terms of security guarantees.
Well, maybe not, but at least it's always good to start with something.
In terms of that conversation between President Trump and President Zelensky, what else came out of that? What was new in the body of that conversation?
Well, actually, this is the tone of the conversation, the way they spoke to each other, and well, the events that shaped the day that they spoke on the phone. It was the election, the vote in the conclave that elected the Pope, and also the deal that was inked by President Trump and Prime Minister Starmer, and the circumstances of this of that day were favorable for them to develop their dialogue. And again, the parliament ratified the mineral deal, so that was a quite conducive atmosphere. They exchanged their views on the possible developments of the situation. President Trump asked about the situation on the battlefield, and President Zelensky briefed him on that. And they touched upon also about the future perspective, about possible future contacts. So nothing is excluded.
Future contacts in what way?
It depends, again. So the teams will work now to decide, but at least in the coming days there will be another phone call. That's what they agreed. So the dialogue is there, and we hope it will take a good practical form, mutually acceptable, respectful and beneficial to Ukraine, and with consideration of the interest of the United States. So they have a very strong team now, working on Ukraine with Secretary Rubio, with Steve Witkoff, with General Kellogg. So they are deep now in the subject of the war in Ukraine and how Russia behaves. Probably they had this opportunity to talk to them, to see that they are trying to drag out the negotiation process, not only the war, and maybe their behavior and their attitude is changing. And
if that changes enough that we get to some kind of ceasefire and longer term pause in the fighting, do you think America is going to put Ukraine under a lot of pressure to accept that Crimea is lost to Russia and other territories, certainly in the short to medium term?
What I can say is that territorial issues will of course be the subject of the negotiations, but let us first see the determination that Russia is ready for peace talks.
Do you have any sense that they are?
Frankly, and subjectively probably, I don't see such an intention now. But anyway, diplomacy should be engaged more strongly than the guns in the field.
When the 3-day pause comes to an end, are you braced for a particularly difficult few days? It's been pretty brutal in the run-up to the pause.
Yeah, it's a sort of a premonition. You need to be ready, because after the the quietude, then the storm may come. Usually the case in our life story. So we do not exclude anything. So anything can come, and we have to be ready. Probably they will try to strike missiles again.
As we mark Victory in Europe Day, at this historic moment in terms of 80 years since peace was declared in Europe, do you see in 80 years' time from now Ukraine as a sovereign nation at peace, or do you think that the situation might be really very different by then?
Now, Ukraine will exist, Ukraine will be a sovereign. In 80-year time, it must be so. And it will not be us, but now we need to do everything, and so many lives of our soldiers were sacrificed that we have no other option. We will have to keep this line to the end, and we will withstand. Yes, Ukraine will be sovereign.
Is there anything else you'd like to say?
As of now, no. We are working intensely on making possible for the peace to be established, for the peace to come back to Ukraine and for our people to live in safety, for children not to go to school underground, but to have to live a happy life. And for our citizens who are now abroad and who have not decided yet what to do, also to have this opportunity to come back. There will be many chances and many opportunities for Ukraine to rebuild, and they're needed here back home. So all our citizens have to come back. That's my idea. This is my dream. I believe not only mine, but of course we want peace. We want to live a normal life. We want to plan for a longer term perspective and not to live by one day. I think this is the desire of a normal human being, not a person blinded by the ideology of grandeur, which really does not exist.